A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control.
You got to be aggressive. You got to be willing to fight. You got to be willing to kill, and you got to be willing to die. At the same time, you got to be able to temper all those things in such a way that they can be controlled and disciplined.
You make men safe, let's say, by making them strong and then by making sure that they're disciplined. Or, like, you don't make men safe by making them weak. In fact, they're much more dangerous when they're weak because they'll stab you in the back when they get the chance, or take advantage of you when they get the chance. You make men safe, let's say, by making them strong and then by making sure that they're disciplined. And so, you've got people like you have got this, let's say, warrior mentality that's a deep part of their temperament, and then you have some choices about what you might do with that. You might try to discipline it and bring it under voluntary control and integrate it into your character, in which it can make you someone who's stalwart and indomitable and who will move forward, in the face of tremendous risk. And, well, that's the optimal pathway if you have that kind of temperament. I think, like, it's the men that have the most, what would you call it? It's not aggressive exactly, but we'll leave it at that. Aggressive and fearless temperaments that can be the best men. But it's like having a very powerful dog. You better discipline it, because otherwise it's going to be a monster.
You actually, to be a good SEAL, you sort of have this criminal mindset that you've somehow harnessed and you keep under control most of the time.
Yeah.
And occasionally it does get out of hand, and we got guys that get in trouble, and that happens. And if we only took guys that would never get in trouble, we wouldn't have anyone in the ranks, really.
Well, you also see, too, in the classic hero stories, you see this with Harry Potter, for example, which I'm making reference to because it was such a phenomena. When something makes welfare mother richer than the Queen of England, you shouldn't take note, right? And when kids are reading 500-page books and standing in line waiting for the next one, and when you produce a whole movie empire around something, you should take note of that. Well, Harry Potter's little team aren't the delinquents, right, who have no discipline, but they're also not the good kids. They're the kids who will break rules when necessary, and that's the issue. Break rules when necessary. Now, the question is, when is that necessary? Well, that's sort of the ultimate ethical choice. The SEAL types, and I've met a number of people like that, they're capable of breaking rules, let's say, or maybe even inclined to break them. But I also think that this is part of the reason that I'm an admirer of Carl Jung, because Jung makes it very clear that, see, he was very interested in the barriers to enlightenment. Because if there's such a thing as being enlightened, let's say, then why isn't everyone enlightened? If it's just a matter of taking the glorious route and following your bliss, let's say, it's like, well, that sounds pretty easy. Why isn't everyone enlightened? But Jung's thinking isn't like that at all. He believed that in order to transform your personality, that first of all you had to be disciplined, that's for sure, but you also had to integrate that part of you that was terrible and capable of breaking rules and make it part of you. And so then, and I really like that idea. Well, here's an example. So about 20 years ago, I would say, there was a newspaper headline in one of Canada's major newspapers, and it was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, Lloyd Axworthy, and he was talking about what had happened with Milosevic in the former Soviet Union in Yugoslavia, and the atrocities that were being committed. And he said that he was caught unawares by that because he didn't have the imagination for that kind of evil. And I thought, well, you think that what you're doing is signaling your virtue by making a statement like that, but from my perspective, all you're doing is stating your cowardice and your historical ignorance, because if you're going to be Minister of Foreign Affairs, you bloody well better have imagination for that kind of evil, because if you don't, then anyone who does wins. They beat you. And so again, in the Harry Potter stories, you see he's touched by evil, right? He actually has a soul fragment that's embedded within him that's as black as anything can possibly be. That's why he can talk to snakes. But without that, he wouldn't be able to have any victory. And that's exactly right psychologically. Unless you can think the way that an evil person thinks, then you're defenseless against them.
You've been down. You've been at the bottom for a long time. You've been put in a position where you feel there's nothing else left for you to give of yourself. You feel alone. There's a moment of despair. You feel like that you can't go on. You almost feel like giving up, maybe even giving up your life, because there's no one there to save you. You're at the bottom. You almost feel like you're a bottom feeder. You're eating dirt instead of eating filet mignon. You don't feel that you have the chance of getting to the next level in your life. You don't understand why you're hurting so bad. You can't even comprehend that every day you start your day, it's always bad things happening instead of something good. You feel like there's no ending to your sorrow. You feel that you can't carry on. The greatest mistake that you made with all of those thoughts in your mind is you never gave yourself a chance just to look up. All you did was look down. All you thought about was sorrow. All you thought about was misery. Instead of keeping your eyes on the prize, you kept looking down at the dirt. You kept looking down at your failures. You kept looking around all of these things that are dead around you. The dead doesn't speak. So how do you resurrect your attitude? How do you bring yourself back to life? How do you resuscitate yourself? How do you recognize that you matter? Start believing within yourself that you do matter. Start looking up. Start climbing that mountain. We all got mountains to climb. They come in different shapes and sizes. Doesn't matter how strong or how weak you are, you must climb that mountain. Doesn't matter how many times you fall, you must climb that mountain. You may slip a few times, but you must climb that mountain. If you're looking over your shoulder and worrying about who's behind you, how can you focus on what's going on at the top of the mountain? So you slip, so you fall. But are you breathing? Can you feel your heart beating? Are you alive? Then keep climbing. Don't be worrying about what you can't control, but you can control your emotions. You can control the fight in you. If you truly desire success in your life, then you got to go up the mountain. And every step that you go up, it gets a little steeper. It gets a little harder. Sometimes when it gets harder, you may feel that you can't carry on. Nobody's going to save you. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you right now. You are the last man or last woman standing at this moment. And the only way you can go up is you got to believe that you can go up that mountain. Every desire that you have within your heart, all your struggles, all your love, all your pain, all your hate, everything that puts you in a position that you are in right now, you're either going to use it for the right reasons or it would destroy you. And you will continue to be that bottom feeder. It's time to rise up now. It's time to find something within you. It's time to realize that you matter for something. It's time to realize that when you were born, something was connected to that body.
You got to be careful in this season who you walk past, because God is getting ready to reverse the order. You got to be careful who you look down on, because God is getting ready to reverse the order. Just because I don't seem like I have it doesn't mean that I'm not about to get it. The last shall be first, and the tail shall be the head. God is about to reverse the order. And I admit, I never really liked Jacob. I think Jacob was an embarrassment to the family. I always preach Jacob from a negative perspective, because Jacob, because of this tricky pull, him and his mama got together and scammed the old man out of the birthright. She had him dressed like he was hairy. She had him change his voice and come into the room, and the old man couldn't have see, and he fooled around and blessed the wrong son. Or was it the wrong son? Isn't it funny how God will move whatever he has to move and manipulate whatever he has to manipulate to put you in the place to line you up for what's next in your life? I want to talk to some folk that got a strange testimony. I want to talk to some people that wasn't born to be what you ended up being, but God just kind of started in Jacob and Esau. That's when your brother tries to kill you because of your blessing. You see, Satan doesn't have any new tricks. All he has is old tricks. And if you live long enough, you start to notice, I've seen this before. The names have changed, but this is the same old devil I had to fight 10 years ago. Because the devil is not a creator, he is an imitator.